the Media Circus. Who's your host, Taisha Bradley? Got virtual and live events to browse, pitch, and repeat so gladly. And she got that online subscription for publicity leads. One thing that's safe to say is she got what you need. As seen in Forbes of Journey and in shout out ATL. The Media Circus, grooving and we doing well. We want you to do better, that's why we here. Show you how to browse, pitch, repeat, let's get it clear.
Welcome back to the Media Circus podcast. It is Taisha Bradley, celebrity publicist, and I am back with you guys. I have a special episode that we are doing today. I have a guest who is, the who's who of TV, and I want to go ahead and bring him on. Greg Funderburg. Welcome to the Media Circus podcast, Greg.
I am so happy to be here today. When I think about this podcast, it is what I've been looking forward to for the past couple of weeks because I have not done a podcast. It's been a minute. So This is like an exclusive for 2024.
Oh, man. Listen, I would have thought that she did podcasts like all the time. You are, just constantly on TV. Mm-hmm. And so I want to talk about who you are. And so normally I would introduce my guests or I would have my guests introduce themselves. But listen, you have this fantastic sizzle reel that I want to share with your guests. So you have a couple sizzle reels and we'll talk about that. But this is the one that I chose to show. And this is how we're going to introduce you in the podcast. How's that?
Sounds good. Let's take a look.
Let's do it.
This morning, he has done makeup for Patti LaBelle, Shaka Khan, Yolanda Adams, currently Oprah Winfrey, and former First Lady Michelle Obama. Joining us this morning, celebrity makeup artist Derek Rutledge to give us some tips when it comes to makeup during COVID-19. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Greg. I'm very happy to be here today.
I have to say, whenever you're close to our area, I just want you to touch my face one time.
I sure will. And I'll come there and we'll have a wonderful feast as soon as everything opens back up.
And we're just hoping for some good weather. Hoping.
Well, we can hope all we want, right?
Exactly. But you're the man with the plan.
Yeah. That was a loud sneeze. I'm not sure if you heard that. Bless you, Bliss.
I tried to run back here, have a little sneeze. Again with all of that
stuff here.
Stay on your side of the desk.
I don't blame Joe. You'll be that person that's eating too much. You look at him and say, "Didn't you just get a plate? She need to get somewhere and sit down."
When you were sitting over to your side, and said, "Is this fourth hot dog?"
I know. I didn't even bring anything to the cookout.
Don't mind us. I mean, we don't talk like that at the parties. We enjoy everything.
And for people like Greg Funderburg who don't like camping outside, there's another option that you guys have. I like to call it glamping, but you're calling it a camper van. It comes with everything, right?
That's right. And glamping is a great way to describe it. It's glorified camping.
Staff quickly realized he had actually won, get this, folks, $1 million. He had the choice of taking the full $1 million prize over 30 years or the Greg Funderburg way, the one-time cash payout of nearly $760,000 before taxes.
You would just take the lump sum. You can say.
Almost said something. Yes, I would. This is our studio control room this morning. On the far left, we have our producer, Katie. She came in at midnight, working so hard, grinding hard. Tyler's in the middle. He's running us on the ones and twos this morning, our fearless director. And look at Dakota there. He's been out in the field, but he's back in the house this morning. This is how we do it, folks. I've been jamming to your music for years. So you know what? We're going to keep jamming to a little positive.
Yes.
Scrolling through Facebook, I see Keenan Daniels, a.k.a. the $1 Million Man here on the screen this morning. And he is sitting there with Oprah Winfrey. And I just lunge up wait a minute, Keenan. First of all, how do you feel? Thousands of people have talked about your post. Yeah. They comments on the post.
Yes.
Did you ever think something like this would happen?
Not in a million years. It's one of those things that you mentally try to prep yourself for, but never in a million years would I ever think that Oprah Winfrey I would have the opportunity to actually work alongside Oprah Winfrey at a barbecue.
Yes. What can we expect from your relationship this season?
Due to my health issues, I've just let all the drama go, and so I don't have time to argue with, her. But it's just that I'm letting it go.
I used to not like Veronica on the show, but she ended up becoming one of my favorite characters because for some reason I love the villain.
I just want to get a hold of her one time.
Good afternoon, as their hit song goes, everybody now. Yeah. Okay, the Backstreet Boys. Well, they're back. That's Brian singing in the back.
And there we go.
Winter already?
It's going to feel like it tomorrow morning. It'll
What
feel like
happened
it
to fall?
tonight. We had it on Monday and Tuesday.
Oh gosh, fall is supposed to go until December 20th. Now you go back over there and find it. I'm just joking.
I will say, Taisha, you brought back so many memories. I have not watched that in a while.
I was going to ask you that. When's the last time you've seen this?
It's been a minute. When you think about that video, and for people, watching the podcast, I ended my career at News Channel 9 in Chattanooga, Tennessee in November of 2022. And I decided I wanted to move on. And so, I spent 9 years, almost 9.5 years in that place and absolutely loved so many amazing experiences. As you can see there, I interviewed Oprah's makeup artist. We talked to the $1 Million Man in Chattanooga, Tennessee, who is also doing some extraordinary things. He is an amazing DJ, by the way. And he's also, I call him Oprah's DJ because he DJ'd for Oprah a few times. And, I had a great crew of people that I got to work with every single day, every single morning. I got a chance to start my day with viewers in Chattanooga and get a chance to help them get their day started. So I can't complain. And so when I think about the work that I was able to do, it was amazing. And I'm thankful that God gave me an incredible opportunity to go to Chattanooga because I created so many lifelong friends in that city. And on top of being in Chattanooga, I also have family in Chattanooga. So, it was a true blessing to spend so much time there and be able to connect with the people. And of course, Tennessee is a great state. And another thing about Tennessee, I will say, it's tax-free when it comes to state taxes.
True. True. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you could take that, trip back down to memory lane with us with that. So listen, that was, a very accurate introduction of who Greg is. Like, I really couldn't put into words and describe it besides, the good old Southern way is Greg is the newsman.
And that's a lot of those clips were truly my natural reaction. And, being a journalist, we are very honest and open. Especially on the morning television, I was always very open and honest, but I had to make sure that my answers were appropriate to be on live television. And you could tell in that clip when we talked about the lottery, my live, that was when Bliss, my co-anchor at the time, she asked me, she said, "Hey, would you take I would take the lump sum." And I almost said something else.
Right. I think we all knew because it's what we always say.
We're on live TV. But, who would take the lump sum? I'm taking the lump sum because, there is no guarantee that Greg Funderburg will be going to glory in a year.
Right. And you couldn't pass it down. So
exactly.
So I love that you talked about like your personality, right? So you can stay on task, and color in the lines, but then also shine with your personality through. And a lot of my audience are entrepreneurs. So would you give some advice to people who are trying to learn how to be online or be in front of people and, still be about the business, but still allow their personalities to shine through?
I think entrepreneurship is an amazing task to take on, especially, so many people during COVID-19, they took on the venture to become entrepreneurs. So I say the most important thing is many times is you can get in front of people, do it. And a lot of times, people are scared. Like I've talked to so many people who are afraid, I can't get in front of people and talk. But you got to realize that you never know who is in the room or who you're going to be talking to, or better yet, who they may know. And so always find opportunities to give your elevator speech is what, a lot of people, entrepreneurs like to call it, to be able to tell people about what they do. And because, when you are able to give that 2 or 3 minute just spiel about what you do, you never know who knows who. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, when you think about my whole situation in that reel you just showed there, I was just randomly talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about what I did at Channel 9 and all the things I did when I was in Chattanooga. And she said, hey, I have a friend of mine who knows Derek Rutledge, and he's Oprah's makeup artist. And I said, really? I said, do you think you can connect him with us to do a segment on our show? And it was just because of me just opening my mouth that he called her friend, and her friend connected her with him. And then the rest is history. He was on the show a couple times, and we check in with each other from time to time. Great guy, and the work that he's doing. And, when I was joking in that clip saying, I just want you to come just do my face. Because, a lot of people don't realize in TV news, we have to wear makeup. And a lot of people are shocked that we have to wear makeup. But trust me, with HDTV, you don't want to see this mug anywhere close to a camera without just a little dusting, as my cousin would call it. But, when you think about being in a role where you are showcasing your business, always feel like you always be in a place where you want to showcase what you do. And a lot of times people may say, I'm nervous, but the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Right. Yes. I tell people to showcase your expertise. If you don't know what to talk about or what to do, then those are good lanes to just kind of stay and play in. So yes, thank you so much for that. I think a lot of us kind of struggle with that, trying to let our personality shine through in our business as well. We either feel like we have to be business or personal, but you can have business personality.
I will tell you, a lot of people may look at it and say, oh, Greg, this is natural to you. This is normal for you. But the truth is, when I was in high school and middle school and elementary school, I was really shy. I didn't come out of my shell of being nervous until I was in the 11th grade. I became drum major of my high school's band. So that experience helped me to come out of my shell. So before that, I was shy. You asked me to get in front of people to speak, I would look at you like, no, I'm not doing that. And here I am today, I'm talking in front of, sometimes hundreds and thousands of people at speaking engagements or, coliseums for an appearance, or, being on television every night, talking about the news and what is happening. So when I tell you I've come a long way, I've come a long way.
Yes. And you attributed a lot of that to just getting in front of people, just constantly getting in front of people until it becomes comfortable.
Mm-hmm. That is so true.
Nice. Okay, so you good. I'm glad you went back. You talked about like being young, 11th grade. So we're going to fast forward a little bit from 11th grade, and let's talk about like, what did you study? Did you go to school for journalism? Are you self-taught? Mm-hmm. Like, give us a background on how you started out and you started out your career.
So I graduated from the University of Montevallo in 2006, and so I went to school to be majored in mass communications with a minor in journalism. And I'm going to take that back. I majored in mass communications with a concentration in journalism and minored in business. So I was at the University of Montevallo, graduated in 2006. Funny story, because I was so shy, I was not supposed to really be a television journalist. I was actually going to be a mortician because I was so shy, didn't talk to people. I felt like that was what I was going to do. So when I was a kid, I used to take toys from like the local, your Happy Meal or whatever, and I would put them in like little boxes. I don't know if I used to see dead people when I was a kid or something. I don't know. But I was fascinated with funerals. And so I would make my cousins, when I would go to either one of my grandmother's houses, we would play funeral. And we will have a funeral, and then we'll take the toy and we'll dig a hole in my grandmother's yard, or either one. So each grandparent and my parents' yard had a cemetery. That was my little cemetery. And I would bury things. If there was a bumblebee that died, we'll get a little matchbox and we'll have a funeral for it. We'll bury it. So that's what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to be a mortician. And so then when I was in the 11th grade, we had a news anchor from my home county speak, at my school about her career. I was so fascinated with everything she talked about when it came to television news. And so then I kept her contact information. Months later, I reached out to her and I said, hey, I'm about to graduate high school next year. Would love to come to the station to check out the live element of television news. And so she invited me to come. NBC affiliate in Birmingham, Alabama, in the television market where I'm from, and loved it. And so then I left, came home. I was inspired. I was motivated. I was, on that verge of like, I am not going to be a mortician anymore. I am going to be a television reporter, news anchor one day. And so couple weeks later in school, it was in May of 2001. This is a year before I graduated high school. And we're going around the room talking about what we wanted to be when we grew up. And I raised my hand and I'm like, I want to be a news anchor reporter. And my teacher looked at me and she said, Greg, I don't think TV news would be the career for you. Maybe you should choose something else. And I tell people this story because if I would have listened to that one teacher, my life would have taken on a whole different viewpoint. But I'm grateful because, my parents always told me that you can be whatever it is you want to be as long as you put your mind to it. You work hard, you have faith and pray, you can make your dreams come true. And so I have, and when I think about my career, I've been so fortunate to meet some incredible people. I've met presidents, I have met Secretary of States, I have met so many different dignitaries across the country. And just recently here in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I'm a reporter anchor now, I just got a chance to cover the Japanese Prime Minister's historic visit to North Carolina. So I am just so grateful that God, allowed me to have just this amazing career, to meet so many fascinating people. And, the thing about it is, when you think about it, the world that we live in and what you do in PR side, we get a chance to meet so many different people who are, making so many contributions to history, to our society, and even to culture.
Yes, definitely. That is, you're just so inspiring. I love that, the things that you're talking about. Like, I'm not even asking you some of these questions, and you're just like pouring that knowledge and inspiration into my listeners. We like to hear about other people's journeys and, how they've made it, things that they've learned along the way, and then things that they want the next group of people who are trying to come up through the ranks. What advice would you give to someone who actually would like to start a career in journalism? Because we have those listeners in our audiences as well.
I will tell you this, the world that we live in today, when I graduated college in 2006, it was, you put out a resume tape, and the resume tape was a VHS. And so VHS tapes are not the thing anymore. So then it was DVDs, and then you would send a link, and which link is the thing that we do now. But I tell people, if you want to pursue a career in television news, just know that it takes a lot of hard work and discipline, dedication, and determination to make your dream come true. Because, I heard Jennifer Lewis say in a speech not too long ago, the elevator to success is broken. So you have to take the stairs. And in the world that we live in today, so many people want to just instantly become famous, instantly get to the anchor desk, instantly just magically appear at Good Morning America or the Today Show. And I tell people it is so imperative that you start from the bottom and work your way up, because those fundamental skills that I learned as a young journalist in Columbus, Georgia, where I got a chance to make mistakes. And then I went on to Greenville, South Carolina, and I got a chance to learn more and make more mistakes. And then I got to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I got to learn more and, of course, make mistakes. And so it prepared me for where I am now, where I'm in Raleigh. This is the 22nd largest television market in the country. And so I'm able to work with some incredible people here in my TV station, but there are so many amazing journalists in this market. And just going to our local Raleigh-Durham National Association of Black Journalists affiliate or group here in the area, it's just really cool to meet so many people who love what we do. And so I really push the importance of getting an education and never allowing people to tell you what you can and what you can't do. Because, I remember as a young journalist, trying to, because being from Alabama, I would talk one way when I would go home to Alabama.
Yeah.
And then you come back to Columbus, Georgia, and then
Right.
you're trying to person for television. And you have to realize that you just got to just be Greg, and you've got to evolve, and you've got to change the way that you talk. You can't, and people always ask the question, you must not be country, you must not be from Alabama. I have some tapes to prove it that I was
Not the tapes. We'll have to get those.
I have the receipts to prove it. And I've worked so hard over the years to make sure that I eliminate as much as I can, because you don't want to sound like you're from the South or from the Midwest or wherever. You want to be like on a neutral playing ground when it comes to your delivery.
Yes.
And so, go ahead.
So let me ask you something about that, because I'm glad that you brought that up. It's something that I bring up sometimes too. So I'm back in the day. I graduated from college some years before you. We'll say that. So when I was in school, we would be taught to speak with a neutral accent, with no accent.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that is something that is still being taught to people in the news, or do you self-teach? Is it just understood? Because we all know, like, there's a news sound, right? So are you all trained to do that?
You were technically, I'm gonna put it like this. When I started out, I was always told you want to make sure that you have a neutral sound. But one thing I did learn, because I remember, when I was in news, when I graduated in 2006, or when I was in college, you want to be like, Tom Brokaw, on NBC, or Peter Jennings, who was famous on ABC, good evening, I'm Greg Funderburg, but that's not me. And, and you have to find your cadence, and you have to find your own personality. And I remember when TJ Holmes was at CNN many years ago, or Don Lemon was at CNN many years ago, I used to look at people who represented who I look like, and I looked at what they did. Or you look at Robin Roberts at Good Morning America, or you look at Craig Melvin on the Today Show. And one thing I have learned, and I tell journalism students when I talk, is you take a little bit of, you see what other people are doing, but at the core of everything, you've got to find a way to authentically be you, because nobody can be Greg. And so I have got to be the best person that I can be. And I allow that professional sense and that tone of voice. But then I also, in the essence of all of that, I got to bring in my own personality, because at the end of the day, I have a way of doing an interview with someone, or talking to someone, or telling a story that no one else can do. And you're the same way. And so I always tell people, you have to find the balance. Everybody's going to tell you all types of things, but then at the end, you got to get to a point where you can come to a realization. I will tell you this, I spent almost 10 years in Chattanooga on the anchor desk. It wasn't until the last 3 or 4 years that I really felt comfortable. And so what I mean by that is, I was always mimicking or trying to be something that I wasn't. But when I took a step back and I just was able to be myself, I was able to find my own cadence and find my own voice and be who I am. Even today, I'm still developing and changing and growing. And I tell journalism students also, if you look at Oprah Winfrey, look at Oprah back when she was starting her show back in the 80s, to the early 90s, to the late 90s, to the early 2000s, to even when she ended her show in 2011, to the way she sounds now. Everybody's voice is going to change over time. It's never going to be something that you're just going to stop working on, but over time you get more. And I think with that, you get more confident, and being confident is going to help you to find your voice.
Yes. And so that takes me to another topic that I would like to talk to you about, and I hope you're okay with talking about, is that at one point in time in your career, you talked about like having some mental health challenges and being able, to work on yourself. And we all know that life is life, and like it has never life before.
Yeah.
And I would say probably most people are struggling somewhere with mental health. And I find it a lot in entrepreneurship. I'm an entrepreneur. I talk to fellow entrepreneurs, and I would like to know what kind of advice you would give to entrepreneurs who are, kind of want to be in front of the media and, want to represent our business and our brands, but maybe, feeling like we don't have it all together, that we may not be, feel as truly as happy as we may look or people may think we are, but still allowing ourselves to feel important enough to share, to continue to show up every day and to share. Can you help us?
Yeah, that's a great question. So many people, when it comes to mental health, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but I ended up talking about mental health during my TED Talk in November of 2023. So, it's something that, a lot of people think, they don't want to talk about publicly, but, growing up in a Black household in Alabama, in the South, the Bible Belt, going to church every Sunday, that's just something we didn't talk about. And so, or even going to a therapist. But I tell people all the time, I am so grateful that I have Jesus in my heart, and the Lord has been amazing to me. But he also put some amazing professionals here in the world who are capable of helping you and helping us to work through some challenges that life may bring. As you said, life be life, and sometimes. And so I've gone through a therapist, and I've gone to a therapist. I went to a therapist last year. So when I left the station in Chattanooga at the end of 2022, I took 3 months off, traveled, thought I was going to go right back into news, took some time off from news, and decided, you know what, I'm just not going to do this right now. I'm going to take a break. Took a job as a marketing director for the Urban League of Greater Chattanooga. But one thing that I learned in the year that I was away, I was able to have some candid conversations over time with someone who became a godmother to me. And her name is Ernestine Carter. And when I think about Ernestine Carter, and I talked about her in my TED Talk, she allowed me to have some kitchen table conversations with her, and nothing was off limits. And so I tell people, in this speech, find someone you can connect with. And a lot of times, if you go to a therapist, that therapist may not be the one for you. And for me, I've gone to a therapist, but before the therapist, I would sit down and talk to Ms. Carter. And before Ms. Carter, I had a therapist, but Ms. Carter really helped me to piece together a lot of parts of my life and help me to understand that, Greg has got to learn to say no. A lot of people, especially in entrepreneurship, we're always saying yes, yes, and yes, and yes. It's okay to say no. I say no all the time. And sometimes when I don't want to really say no to a person, I'll just say, let me check my calendar. I'm not available to do that. I'm not available on Saturday. And you don't owe them any other explanation. And, and I tell people this all the time. And I've had friends say, well, what are you doing on Saturday? I'm laying in my bed and I'm chilling. That's what I'm doing. Right. Well, you're available. No, I am not available, because that is Greg's time to recoup and to replenish himself. And what I learned during my time in Chattanooga, I spent so much time pouring out to so many people, giving and speaking and hosting and being somebody to everybody. And then at a breaking point in 2018, I was like just depleted, and I couldn't give anything else to anybody else. And it was hard. And I remember being sad and depressed and crying in private and with a few friends, but then going on television, like, good morning, how's everything? How's everybody going? You put it on for the public, and then you go back in private. And so it was during that time that I really got to connect with Miss Ernestine Carter, and she helped me through a difficult time in my life and helped me understand the importance of taking care of Greg, but also living a life for Greg. Because so many times in our lives, we're always trying to please a parent, please parents, both parents, or please grandparents, or please somebody else. And, so many years had gone by in my life where I was always trying to be something to everybody and please family and please parents. And I got to a point and I said, am I even happy? And when I got to the core of it, I wasn't even happy. And so I started to prioritize myself. And so when COVID happened, COVID was a blessing. And I'm going to tell you why. For me, it was a blessing because I was able to have a complete reset. I had nothing on my calendar. I got a chance to chill, lay back, and I really got to spend time with myself. And I think so many people, Taisha, we're always used to being around so many people all the time. And during COVID, I'm a single person. I was at home by myself. Like I would go to work and come home. And I loved it because I got to be with my thoughts and I got to see who Greg was. And during that time, I wrote a children's book, something that I had been wanting to do for so long, didn't have the time to do it, finally had the time, so wrote a book. And then after COVID was over, or pretty much over, quote unquote, in 2022, I released a children's book. And I have another children's book, excuse me, that's coming out later this year. So I think about all of those different projects that really I was able to do. But, if I had not prioritized my mental health and taking care of Greg, I couldn't have never produced this project. I never could have been able to do all the things that I've been able to do, or even what I do now, moving on to a new city in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Nice. Right. Great. Thank you for that. That was, very insightful. And lets people know that they need to talk to someone, even if it's not a therapist, it could just be that person for you, and for us to just kind of continue to keep moving. So awesome. Out of that, they say, when you start to get your mental health together, you get your physical health together. Is that when you started Get Fit with Greg?
So let me tell you, I tell people all the time, like fitness is, I call myself the male version of Oprah, because when it comes to the fitness aspect, everybody's journey is going to be different. And so years ago in 2015, I started this whole fitness thing with myself. So I lost weight 2016, great. 2017, 2018, as you said earlier, life be life. And went through a depression, sadness, and you're eating, emotional eating, and then the weight comes back. So then 2019, I go through the process and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Let me get myself together and mentally let's go through this process again. And COVID happened, the gym shut down, and then life be life. And then you got to sit at home and chill. So I tell people fitness for me now, and it's a lifestyle. And so I'm back on that journey now, ending my time in Chattanooga and coming to a new city. The first couple of months, just learning my way around, because, it's a big area. So you got Raleigh, you got Durham and Chapel Hill and Fayetteville and so many different places. So I hired a personal trainer. So I'm getting my life together. And so it's a journey. And I tell people every day, you have to figure out what's going to work for you. If that's a trainer, if it's you doing whatever it is to get yourself on that journey, you do it. And I've seen some people take medications, they go to their doctor, but you got to figure out what's going to be best for you. For me right now, I'm just simply to the gym, making healthier choices, and, wanting to get myself down, because I'm going to be 40 this year. In my mind, I'm turning 30, but I'll be 40 in July.
40 is the new 30. You didn't know that?
Exactly.
Come on in.
And these people, I'm 25, and my cousin, every year I'm like, I'm turning 25, and my cousin said, you got to up it 5 years. You can't say 25 again. You got to say 30. So I, and the thing is about health and wellness, especially in our community, my mom's family has a history of hypertension and heart disease. My dad's family has a history of diabetes. So I want to make sure Greg is taking care of himself, because I want to make sure that I'm going to be here a long time to be around for other family members and, my friends and people around. And I just want to enjoy life and travel.
Nice. Same here. Enjoy life and travel. That is one of the goals. Awesome.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And, even going into the personal parts, I think those things are just super relatable to so many people listening and watching. So I appreciate you talking about that. But we are going to take a quick little break, and then we're going to come back, because I know my audience is like, all right, this is good and all, but let's get to the pitching tips, sis. Because they like to talk about that, and they want to hear your best ideas and your advice for pitching, so they can get on TV, be on the morning news. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about it. All right.
Looking to show some love for the Media Circus podcast with Taisha Bradley, celebrity publicist? Here's how. Hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all the latest episodes. Leave a review and share your media wins for a chance to be featured on the show. And by subscribing to Media Circus publicity leads on Patreon, you can support the podcast and get instant access to publicity opportunities for TV, magazines, major blogs, podcasts, and even red carpet events. So what are you waiting for? Show your support for Taisha Bradley and the Media Circus podcast today.
And we're back. And we are going to be in the second part of the show, and we're going to talk some about pitching for media. Okay, so first things first, will you explain to our audience what you would consider as a source for media, like a media source?
You know, when I think of, are you talking about like a news source?
Yes, like a news source is someone who can help you with a story, has a story lead. We have a lot of different lingo and terms in media. And so I try to get people to explain things in their own words.
My whole thing is, especially when it comes to media stuff, just look and know credible networks and look at what you're reading, but also read a couple different stories and come to your conclusion. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, the world that we live in today, we see things that are not all the way correct or not all the way given all the facts. So don't just watch one news network. I say watch several so that you can, get the facts or get the information and you dissect it and you pull apart what you feel that is and what that means for you and your community.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then many of my listeners that are entrepreneurs or they're, C-suite level in business or they're subject matter experts would like to be featured on the news to talk about their business or their brand. And so here on the Media Circus podcast, we talk about not just, approaching the media or wanting to be on the media just to, for, self-promotion, but what you can offer an audience, and how you can help that audience. What are your tips for people who would like to say, and so specifically, not just a guest on the news, but a lot of the people who listen to my podcast, they want to be like that guest expert that comes in that talks about, different sales, talks about food, some of those recurring features on the news.
I tell people all the time, you have to, first off, pitch your idea. But the most important thing when you're pitching to the news or a different show on a news station, make sure you know what show you're pitching to, because every show is different. So some shows, they focus on businesses. Some shows, they focus on stories, like the news is strictly news. But then you have some of these entertainment shows that are on different news stations now where you can pitch different ideas. And so I tell people, typically, if you're pitching to talk about your business, they're probably going to charge you to do that because of, advertisement for your business. But if you want to be creative, think of ways how you can be on the news, how you can have a little bit of positive feedback for your business, but you're also doing something for the community. For example, if you are doing something for breast cancer awareness in your local gym, or if you are a local business, you want to host like a sweat fest, sweating out cancer. And so you're partnering with the gym to come on the news and talk about this event, because the event is going to be focused on what you're doing and why you're doing it. That is a way to be able to promote your business in a way, but also you're talking about how you're making an impact in the community. But more importantly, when you do stuff like that, you have to make sure that you have some connection to whatever you're talking about. Because if you're going to talk about breast cancer awareness, have a story as to why you're going to do that. But if you want to come on and be an expert about something or something that's happening in the world, for example, let's see, next month is Entrepreneur Month. And so if you think of a way that you can pitch a segment about Entrepreneur Month, pitch it. or if you want to come on, if you're an expert in camping, if I'm not mistaken, June is National Camping Month, or March is Colon Cancer Awareness Month. Whatever it is that you want to pitch, find something that you can pitch to the station that you can talk about as an expert. But the most important thing when you're going on the news, always remember, you got to think about talking in sound bites and talking in, those 10 to 15 second windows or 20-second windows, so that they can get a lot of content in during that time. Because a lot of people, I've worked with some people in the past, and they have so much information and they want to come on and talk about all this information. And I'm like, listen, this is 20 minutes worth of information. We got to take this 20 minutes and we got to condense it to like 2 to 3 minutes. And that can be difficult for people. But the thing about it is, and a lot of people are always trying to push so much information out on television, think of TV as the appetizer. Because at the end of the interview, you're going to push people to your website. Don't push them to social. You go push them to your website, and you're going to say, when you go to my website, you can link over to all of my social media platforms. Because you got to remember, because, people on television, people are like, go to my website, gregfunderburg.com. My Instagram handle is gfunderburgtv. My Facebook, like, people are not going to remember that.
They're not going to catch all that.
Go to my website, gregfunderburg.com. There you can link over to my social media pages. You can also find my book, Jeremiah's New Beginning, blah, blah, blah. So you got to think of it that way. And then when you're on your social media pages leading up to that interview, also include some pictures of you, like a video on your story, like going in the station, or, a video of you opening the door. I'm here at such and such station today, tag the station, and they may share it. But the thing about it is, when you get that opportunity to go in for that interview or whatever, you want to make sure that you're concise and to the point and show a lot of personality if you're able to, so that it can open the door for possibility of more opportunities to go on that station. Or another station in the competing market may say, hey, check this person out. They are very knowledgeable. We should have them on our show. And so the other part about this, Taisha, is that, after everything is over, put it on your social media page. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, and they were on television and they waited a whole week to put it on their page, on their social media page. And I'm like, it's hot right now. It is hot today. If you're on the show today, you need to put something on the page
right away.
Or if they say this is going to run on Tuesday, then you need your social media page is saying, hey, I'm going to be on such and such station. I'm going to be on such and such podcast. Right. So people can be looking for it, anticipating it. And a lot of people, some people deal with the urgency world that you and I know very well. Right. Some people don't deal with that world. But I'm like, it's a missed opportunity if you don't put your social posts up as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people kind of hesitate to do that because they don't want to seem like they're bragging. But listen, this is the opposite of that. This is the time.
I tell people
to shine and allow, to do that. Because I know that you guys, that there are metrics on those links. So the more that we share on social media and then people click on them, that we send them in our email, people click on them. Like, you guys can see that, and that allows you to know the success of that piece or of that person, know. So I tell people, like, it's part of the deal. Like, you have to share it and tag your people too, because they appreciate that.
That is true, and it's a fine line. You don't have to be like, look at your boy on such and such news today. Keep it relevant. I was so grateful to be able to go on, Taisha Bradley's podcast, Media Circus Publicity, to talk about blah blah blah. Thank you so much. Tag her. Tag whoever. You can do a fine line. And the thing I tell people when they talk about, like, I don't want to seem like I'm bragging. At the end of the day, the only person who is going to promote you is you. And if you don't promote yourself, nobody else is going to do it. Nobody's going to talk about your business but you. You may have some friends, you may have some family members who are going to do it, but the only person who's going to really rep hard for it is you. And so you have to talk about it. Now, you don't have to talk about it every second you get on social media, but rep your business, showcase yourself, and showcase what you're doing. Showcase the positive things, because at the end of the day, social media is a highlighter of our lives.
Right. Yes. So much. Awesome. Let me ask you some questions about pitching. Because I've known who you are. Like, I'm in Tennessee, you know, I watch Chattanooga News. I know Greg Funderburg when I see him. I know your voice. I knew your voice when I heard it. And that's how I knew who you were. However, I pitched you a story with one of my clients who was having an event in Chattanooga, and you responded and you accepted my pitch and you interview my client. And so I'm going to just share this like while we're talking. But I want to talk about what you look for in a pitch when someone is pitching you a story idea or pitching you a guest. What are the top things that you look for in a pitch that will make you say yes?
You know, you're always looking for something that is in your market. You're looking for something that is going to be vital information for the market in which you're serving. You're looking for a person who is, you know, engaging, a personality, because the last thing, you know, you want to do is, you know, book somebody to come on the show and they're like, you know, you have a producer in your ear and it's like, oh my gosh, can you liven this person up? And, you know, I'm the type person when I'm interviewing people, if I know when they're coming in the studio, they're nervous, I spend a lot of time with them in the commercial breaks to make them feel comfortable. And even during the interview, and even before the interview, I'll talk to some of my guests and say, what do you hope to happen after this interview? And they'll tell me, and then I can, as an interviewer, I can help them achieve that goal. And so by paying attention to what they are saying, I can help them to reach the goal by the end. And that's the goal of the person we're interviewing, if that's their publicist or whoever. But, you know, the most important thing is when you're pitching a story, make sure that it has some sort of relevance to the market where you're pitching it. Because, you know, if something is happening in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I was, and you don't want to pitch something like that to somebody in Nashville because they're not going to care.
Right.
However, if you have a big name, somebody like, you know, Dr. Jewel Tankard, if she's coming to, you know, some area, you know, there may be a radius around that you want to pitch things to. So it just depends. And the other part about it, I tell people, always pay attention to the show that you're pitching for, because I've had people, no lie, when I was in Chattanooga, people would pitch to me to come on the show, and they'll say, what time do we need to be there? And I'm like, you have to be there at 7:15 in the morning. And they're like, oh my God, it's for the morning show? And I'm like, you did pitch to Good Morning Chattanooga. So it's like, just know who you're pitching for. If you're not a morning person, don't book morning interviews.
Right.
You also have to remember, you know, know something about the people who are going to be on the show. You may not know specifically who's going to interview you, but at least kind of look and see who's on the show. And, you know, you may know that, you know, Greg Funderburg, you looked on my bio and you said, oh, Greg is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, or Greg is this, or Greg is that. And you may bring something up and I'm like, oh yeah, you know this, you do this. Yeah, I love this, you know. So you never know what you may have in common with the people that work at the station.
Nice. I like how you slid in that shout out to the noobs.
You know, you have to do it every now and then.
You know, you have to do it. Listen, I encourage everybody to shout out Greek Club. I'm a Zeta. My dad's a Sigma.
Okay.
Listen,
I have a lot of Zeta friends
in that Greek family. So love. Nice. I did want to shout out to NABJ. You mentioned them earlier.
Yep.
So lots of friends in NABJ. You want to shout out them.
You know,
and then also Greenville, South Carolina. Run that back. We talked about Greenville because we have those connections. So shout out to Greenville, South Carolina.
I enjoyed my time in Greenville. I went to Bethlehem Baptist Church with Dr. Philip Baldwin as the pastor. This is in Simpsonville, South Carolina. Okay. So I love my time there. I worked at Fox Carolina for 3.5 years, and it was a great experience. Great people there, loved it. And then, you know, I spent time, 10 years in Chattanooga. My last year, I worked at the Urban League as director of marketing. But, I'm grateful. God has truly blessed me with so many amazing things. But I just want to tell people, if there's any question that you may have. If you want to learn how to pitch something, or you got an idea, you need some help, just go to our website, gregfunderburg.com, and click on the contact tab and shoot me a message and I'll respond.
Awesome. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes. We are toward the end of our interview, but listen, I could continue to talk. It's just so interesting. You're just dropping so many jewels. I know that I'm going to have you back on the podcast for the next season because you have so much to share. But this is the question that I like to ask all of my guests at the end. If you could be featured in the media, anywhere in the media, where would you be featured and what would the headline be?
Oh, I have a couple. If I could be featured anywhere, I would be sitting down with Oprah Winfrey in California in her backyard, talking about my children's book series with Jeremiah Madison. Honestly, that's what I would be doing.
That's probably one of the best answers.
And you know,
what would the title of the episode be, or what would the headline be?
You know, it'll be, I don't know what the title of the episode would be, but I guess overcoming a lot of adversity to finally write a book, or finally to be an author, because there was so much that I needed to overcome. And, you know, working with Miss Ernestine Carter and helping me through, you know, some mental health challenges and getting through some depressed moments from, you know, 2018 to the last couple years to getting to a good place. But more importantly, just being able to share my story when it comes to the book and why I wrote the book. And a lot of my friends who grew up with me back in Alabama, they always used to say, if I ever had kids, my kids' names would be Jeremiah Madison. And so at the time when I wrote the book, I didn't have kids. I still don't have kids. I said, if I ever had kids, their names would be Jeremiah Madison. And so since I had not physically had kids, I decided to birth kids through a book. And I get to share different adventures with the kids through their eyes in the book. And so coming up in October, I'm planning to release my next part of the series, and they're going to be dealing with bullying. So it's going to be, you know, a good time to release that for National Bullying Month.
Yes. Very nice. Like I say, we can talk about all the things. You do so much. You are such an inspiration, you know, to entrepreneurs everywhere, to the next generation of people in communications, just to anyone, you know, living life and striving, you know, to kind of be the happiest, healthiest versions of themselves. You inspire us in that way. So we want to thank you so much for all that you do for yourself and for everyone else. And thank you so much for being on the Media Circus podcast. I will make sure that all of your information, your contact information, and your book are in the show notes. And that ends another fantastic episode of the Media Circus Publicity Podcast. Thanks for listening, guys.
Let's go! This is the Media Circus with your host Taisha Bradley. Got virtual and live events to browse, pitch, and repeat so gladly.